0090822E17189. 14.1.7 Wire inching using plus or minus key. A function to allocate wire inching function to the plus or minus key on the teach pendant. It is convenient to perform inching operation using the plus or minus key, especially in trace operation when you want to retract the wire without touching tack welded part. 1. Settings. From the Advanced Weld Settings, select Wire Inching, and click OK. Wire inching allocation to plus key, select it, mark the checkbox, to use the plus or minus key for wire inching, forward, backward, asterisk. Please note that if the key is allocated, you cannot use it the plus or minus key in manual, trace and program test operation. Do not select clear the checkbox, if you want to use the plus or minus key for manual, trace and program test operation. 2. Movements. Wire feed forward. While holding down the plus key, the robot feeds forward the wire. The low speed is applied for the preset time, and then changed to high speed. Wire feed backward. While holding down the key, the robot feed backward, retract the wire. The low speed is applied for the preset time, and then changed to high speed. For details of feed speed, low speed, high speed, and time setting to change from low to high, please refer to section 14.2.6 Inching speed. Supplementary notes. Greater than once allocated, the wire inching, feed forward, backward, won't be executed by pressing function key and plus or minus key together while the LED of the robot motion icon or if the icon is on. If attempted, the message, the plus or minus key is allocated to the wire inching, is displayed. Plus or minus key arc welding machine settings. 190 OM 1009082E17. 14.1.8 Output of the default welder settings. When multi-welders is added to the system screen, the output of the default welder icon won't be displayed, and the output terminals set in the output of the default welder dialog box are changed to ones for general purpose. 1. Click the Browse button and specify an output terminal from the list of output terminals for each welder. They are all factory set to 0, none. It is possible to specify the same terminal number more than once. 14.1.9 Switching welders by the external input, G3 controllers only. This function is to change the default welder to the welder specified by the external input. 1. Setting procedure. From the list of arc welding machine settings, click the Switching welders by the external input to display the setting dialog box. Names of the welders changed using the Rename a welder function are displayed. Input, specify an external input terminal number to be used to change the default welder to the welder. Output, while switching, specify an output terminal number that indicates the switching welders in process. Inputs are factory set to 0, none, at shipment. If there is any duplicate entry of an input terminal number, the message, duplication of input terminal no, is displayed and the setting cannot be updated. The name of the updated default welder is displayed on the title bar of the Weld Condition screen. View greater than arc weld info. Current, voltage, see the figure on the right. If the switching welders by the external input function is deleted from the list of the system screen, the terminals specified in this function become terminals for general purpose. The process may take several minutes to complete. The processing time varies with welder models. Note: check the system screen set greater than management settings greater than system to make sure that the switching welders by the external input function is added. Specified output. Specified input. Registered welders. Unregistered welders. Terminal number. Terminal number arc welding machine settings. OM 1009082E17191. 2. Robot movements. 1. The robot checks the input state in the following situations. When mode is switched from teach mode to auto mode. A program is started. When a reserved program reserved to start while running the previous program is started. When the program test icon is turned on. Please note the input state check or switching of default welder won't be executed when the test run icon is pressed. 2. After the input state check, if the input terminal number for switching welders different from the current default welder is turned on, the robot switches the default welder to the new one. While the robot is in the process of switching welders, the preset output while switching is on. The output while switching goes off once the switching welder process is completed. During the switching welder function is in process, the message switching the default welder is displayed. If the start switch has been turned on before the processing, the robot automatically starts operation after the processing. Supplementary notes: greater than the switching welders by the external input won't be applied under the following conditions. When restarting a stopping program. If the input terminal number for switching welders is the same as the one before the input state check. If no input terminal is turned on. If the input terminal of an unregistered welder is on, the error message, W0600, the welder for switching not registered, is displayed. If more than one input terminal is on, the welder of the smallest input terminal number is applied. Attention: if the start switch has been turned on before applying the switching welders by the external input function, the robot automatically starts operation after the switching process. Do not enter the robot operating range. Arc welding machine settings. 192 OM1009082E17. 14.1.10 Lift up, TAWERS only. It is a function that provides better arc start and arc end operation by lifting up the torch at the moment of arc start. Lift start, and lifting it down at the moment of arc end. Lift end, with the robot arm operation. Lift start, provides stable arc start with minimal spatter generation. As this function actually lift up the torch by moving the robot, it allows higher responsiveness compared to retracting the wire. Lift end contributes to reducing takt time by shortening the wire burning time and also suppressing wire stick generation, thanks to the method to lift up the torch. 1. Settings. Lift up specifies whether to use this function, valid or not, invalid. Initial condition, specify whether to apply this function, enable, or not, disable, when the main power is turned on. Arc start up with, distance to lift up the torch at the arc start. 0.00-3.00 mm, arc end up with, distance to lift up the torch at the arc end. 0.00-3.00 mm, lift down time, length of time to lift down the torch after the lift up action at the arc start. 0.10-1.00 s, lift up angle limit over, lift up disable, do not execute, lift up, when the lift up angle limit over occurs. Error hold, the robot makes an error stop when the lift up angle limit over occurs. Supplementary notes: greater than if you want to apply the lift up function only at the arc start but not at the arc end, set initial condition to enable and arc end up with to 0, 0. Note: at the arc end point, lift down action after torch off is executed after arc off program. Therefore, make sure to use the arc off command to call the arc off program. If TORCHSW off command is used without using ARCOFF command, the robot executes only lift up operation at the arc end point. As the robot moves to the next arc start point without executing lift down operation, the robot may fail to move to the exact next arc start position. Such gap 1 be accumulated to create a serious misalignment. Lift down time. Lift up. Lift down. Arc start arc welding machine settings. OM1009082E17193. 14.1.11 Weld monitor. It is a function to monitor welding conditions whether each setting item is within the monitoring range or not. Note this function does not detect change of welding conditions to avoid an error. Use this function only as a guide to judge defective or not. Set parameters and click OK. For each setting item, specify whether to monitor, valid, or not, invalid. If valid, specify the setting values. Description of the setting values for each setting item. Weld current, weld voltage, number of shorts, S, specifies the monitoring range, upper, lower limits. Instant arc lag time, specifies the time period to determine the instant arc lag. Motor current, specify the upper limit of the motor current. Averaging time, the value specified in the entry box multiplied by 50 milliseconds, is treated as the setting value. The setting value is recognized as a unit to calculate the average value. Then the average value is compared to the monitoring range. Deviation trigger, condition, specifies the criteria for deviation. Time duration in second, S, and number of occurrences, count. Delay after current detect, specifies a time period to start monitoring after the arc start, current detect. Monitor output, specifies the output terminal to turn on when deviated. Output reset, timing to turn off the monitor output. Torch on, selects it to reset the output when torch switch is turned on. Reset input, selects it to reset the output when the preset input is turned on. Supplementary notes greater than, weld current, weld voltage, monitoring range is determined by adding the setting values, low range and upper range, to the preset welding current, voltage respectively. For example, for the preset welding current, 180A, if the weld current setting values are 30, for lower range and 20, for upper range, the monitoring range is 150 to 200 inches. Number of short, the upper limit and lower limit setting values are treated as the monitoring range. Instant arc lag time, takes the setting value and the accumulated arc lag time as the monitoring upper limit. Motor current, the setting value is treated as the monitoring upper limit. Delay after current detect, it is provided not to monitor unstable arc period immediately after arc generation. This weld monitor monitors the setting item if it is set to valid. It doesn't need to write a command in a program. It monitors the setting items only in welding operation. Arc welding machine settings. 194 OM10090882E17. 14.1.12 TAWERS AMP, WFS Switching, TAWERS only, a function to specify whether to use welding current and welding voltage, AMP volt, or wire feed speed and welding voltage, WFS volt, to specify the welding conditions. Settings. 1. Make sure that TAWERS AMP, WFS Switching, function is set to valid. If not, the setting dialog box shown on the right is not displayed. 2. Select either AMP volt, use welding current and welding voltage, or WFS volt, use wire feed speed and welding voltage. Select the unit for the wire feed speed from meter per minute or inch. AMP volt, welding current and welding voltage, WFS volt, wire feed speed and welding voltage. For wire feed speed, select either meter per minute or IPM, inch per minute. Related matters. 1. When WFS volt is selected, command for welding conditions, such as arc set, crater and ARCSLP commands, the switch to the commands based on the wire feed speed. Example, arc set, WFS equals, wire feed speed, volt equals, voltage, S equals, speed. 2. Setting items for weld condition table, display weld condition, and override, are also switched in accordance with this setting. Note, there is no compatibility between commands for AMP volt, welding condition type and commands for WFS volt, welding condition type. If arc set command for AMP volt is executed while the WFS volt is preset, the error W1820 welding condition type is different, occurs. While selecting WFS volt, pulse switching by means of WPLS command is not applicable. Arc set, crater. Display weld condition. Override. Command arc welding machine settings. OM10090